Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Depends where you are in the world. Welcome, everyone, to the second day of the webinars that we mark in the national Grief Awareness Week that we are celebrating this week. My name is Espe. I'm a counsellor from the emotional wellbeing team from St. Elizabeth Hospice, which we are the one holding this series of webinars. So today is the second day, and I'm very excited to have Andrea with me live today. Hello, Andrea. I'm gonna hello. I'm gonna just introduce Andrea. She is just a moment. I've got here her bio. So she's a medical doctor who used to work in clinical research, who is the owner of a private clinic focusing on prevention, including early breast cancer detection using artificial intelligence. The loss of her third son led her to her profession. She is a certified grief recovery specialist and now supports others through grief with empathy and expertise. Andrea is also training in compassionate inquiry under Dr. Gabo Mate and believes in the power of lifelong learning. We also have today Dr. Aislinn Quiery. She has done a pre-recorded presentation because she can't be here today live, but she's a GP and a compassionate inquiry practitioner as well. And she's going to share in a pre-recorded video a personal reflection on her experience on keening, which is an Irish grief ritual that faded in the 1950s, but has gained renewed interest in the recent years. So welcome, Andrea, and I'm just gonna now share the video. So we are gonna start with the sharing from Aislinn, and then Andrea is gonna do her presentation. So just gonna share the video from Aislinn. Just bear with me. I'll find the right, yeah. So I've got it here. Shut the sound. And I'm just gonna play this.
Hello, my name is Aislinn Quiery. I am a GP and a compassionate inquiry practitioner, and I'm recording this from my home on a little organic farm just south of Belfast in the rolling green Drumlin Hills of County Down in the north of Ireland on a damp autumnal day here. And I'm delighted to be with you for the next 5 or 10 minutes to talk about the ancient Irish grief ritual of keening. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of keening and then talk about my own personal experience with keening when my dad died in 2023. And then I would like to share a little bit about what I think keening teaches us about death and grief in the modern world. So keening comes from the Irish word kinu, which means to cry. And keening is an old ritual in Ireland done by women speaking Irish, native Irish speaking women, who would lament or wail or cry or sing, and sometimes would also beat their bodies while they were doing this at Irish funerals or wakes. And a traditional Irish wake is done over 3 days and 3 nights, where in the home of the deceased, where family and friends come to the home, view the body, and have a grieving celebration of that person's life. And keening women were often women who were on the fringes of society. They were quite poor, maybe dressed in rags, and they would be paid in money or food by families to come and keen around the coffin or sometimes on top of the coffin for a deceased person. And this was said to serve two functions: to um, keen was to, what do I want to say, to accompany the soul of the person who had died into the next life, and also to support the family and friends who had been left behind to be with their own grief process. Keening died out in the 1950s in Ireland, so it is no longer done in Ireland. It's maybe more accurate to say that the Catholic Church stamped out or suppressed this tradition, as for various reasons, not least that they found this a threat to their own power and authority. So I first came across, I knew about keening, but I first came across it personally in June of 2023 when I went down to a women's gathering in Cork in the southwest of Ireland. I drove the 8 hours down to Cork, and when I arrived, I'd been thinking about my dad, who was in hospital, very ill. This wasn't unusual for him to be in hospital. He was a renal transplant patient and had had many hospital admissions and many years of poor health. And when I arrived at this weekend, I was aware that I was quite agitated. I wasn't able to settle or sit still. I had tension in my body. I wasn't quite sure why. I didn't know whether I wanted to eat or not, whether I wanted to walk or to sit. And I remember wandering around the grounds just before the retreat started, really feeling quite unsettled. There was a woman who had a recent bereavement in the group, and one of the other women offered to do a keen for us. So we went into the woods, this group of maybe 15 or 16 women, and this particular woman had a drum, a bodhrán, a traditional Irish drum, and she began to beat the drum and to do a keen, this sort of wailing and lamenting. And sometimes it sounds like singing or sounding, but it can sound quite high pitched and almost difficult to listen to. And some of the women in the group began to cry. And that sound, which could sometimes be quite grating on the ear, really found its way into my body. And I realized I was holding tension, a lot of tension in the center of my chest and in my throat. And that sounding softened that tension, and it came up into my throat, and I began to cry and then to sob. And really, I sobbed for the whole weekend, for those 2 days. I didn't really understand what was happening, but I went with it, and I had good support from the women in the group. And then I did the 8 hour drive back to my home. And when I went to see my dad in hospital and spoke to the doctors, it became clear that he was actually dying. We managed to get him home, and he died at home 10 days later. In the front room, surrounded by myself, my 3 siblings, and my mum. And what that keen allowed me to do was to get a head start on the grief that I didn't even know was there in my body. And in those 10 days before he died, after I'd done the keen, I was really able to be with my grief. It came in waves, it moved through me. I was able to be very present with my family. We created a beautiful space in the room with flowers and candles and music. And I really noticed that the palliative care teams, the nurses and doctors and carers who came in to look after him, would come into the room, their shoulders would drop, they would sit down, and almost all of them commented on that beautiful atmosphere in that room. And when my dad died and was taking his last breaths, and actually a day or two before he died, I sang a lot to him. And the process of him dying, my family are non-religious, and we didn't really know how to handle that. And there was just this intuition in me to sing. So as he was drawing his last breath, I was singing songs, and that allowed my mum and my siblings to release the tears that they needed to release. And it was a very beautiful process. So, which I'm very grateful for. So what the keen has taught me, and I think can teach all of us, is that grief is a communal process that wants to be witnessed. John O'Donoghue says in his beautiful poem for grief in the first verse. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you becomes fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down where words have no confidence. The Keen goes beyond words and teaches us that grief is a bodily, emotional, visceral experience. And when the ground beneath us becomes fragile, grief rituals can give us some of that grounding because they teach us that grief is a common human experience that many human beings before us and many human beings after us live through. And there is comfort in knowing that other human beings have suffered this pain that we're suffering and have been able to live on. And in fact, that grief serves this function of enabling us to process the loss of a loved one. And I just wanted to finish by sharing an illustration of a keening woman. You can see she's reaching up with her arms and her hair is a little bit wild. And the keening women showed us that grief is a raw and visceral and unashamed and possibly messy process, and that it's okay for it to be expressed, and that it's okay for us to express this in community. So although the keening ritual has died out in Ireland, there are many people now, especially women, who are showing interest in its revival. And it is my hope that this old Irish tradition can be reimagined for modern times and help us process our grief. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Espe for this opportunity. Much love.
Thank you, Ashleen. Gonna stop the sharing now. How powerful video, Andrea, that Ashleen had shared with us. So thank you very much, Ashleen. Fortunately, she's not here, but we send our love to her and our gratitude for sharing this powerful experience, wisdom of the Irish ritual of keening. I don't know if you would like to comment anything about that, Andrea?
Yes, I would love to. First of all, I send my love to everybody, and thank you so much that I can be here. And I'm gonna definitely light a candle for Aisling, and I'm so happy that I managed to watch her really powerful video. We also do have special term, Hungarian word for keening in the Hungarian language, as we also had it in the past. And, in villages, it was very, very common that we had women who came to the funerals and they were doing the keening. So I'm so happy that she shared this, because I do believe that it's a very, very powerful way to help grief flow.
And the importance of what she was saying about grief to be witnessed and to be in community. Yeah. Well, thank you for your insight, and I'm gonna pass it to you. I think you have a lot of things to share. We will have at the end of the webinar about between 10 to 15 minutes for any questions that the audience might have. If anyone wants to write them on the chat, we will read them at the end, or you will have the opportunity to ask any questions about the webinar at the end. Thank you. So I pass it to you, Andrea.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. So I hope you can see it. Great. So I just would like to tell my story, how saying goodbye and some ritual which was kind of hidden inside me helped me how to say goodbye to my third son. But before I go to the depth of my story, I would like to share that I am a treasure collector. And oh, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on a second. There's a okay. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry, I have to stop sharing and share it again. Somehow it's my slides are not. Just a second. Technically, I try again. Presenter view. Okay. Hopefully it's gonna work now. Okay, so I am a treasure collector, and I always kept in mind that we are what we think, and with our thoughts we make the world. As a medical doctor, I was trained in Western medicine, and I would like to let you know how I understood the depths that the mind tells the stories and our body speak the truth, and the body knows the wisdom, because it was not quite obvious during my journey. As Rumi says, we are not a drop in the ocean, we are the entire ocean in one drop. And I was keeping all this in mind as a medical doctor when I was focusing on the importance of breast cancer awareness, and I was doing everything as a medical doctor to bring the early detection and prevention to our clinic, and including artificial intelligence. So I do believe in science and data, and it was really important for me to bring the newest technology to our clinic to help women fighting breast cancer. My other treasure is life itself, and I do love kids. I have two sons. One of them are 17, and the other son of mine is 14 years old now. And I was so happy when I got to know that I was pregnant with my third son a couple of years ago. And I was flying in happiness after we finished all the developments in our private clinic, focusing on breast cancer. Until the point when I received a phone call from my doctor, and the gynecologist said that my third son had a genetical condition. We had to decide about his life. Therefore, I just collapsed. I think my heart just broke, and I fell into the depths of grief. And you must know something about me. As I mentioned, I am a treasure collector. I love children, and I think all children arrive to this planet with a born wisdom. So I started 15 years ago collecting the wisdom of children. When I was reading a fairy tale for my son, and I was having my second son in my womb 15 years ago, I was reading this fairy tale, and my older son stopped me and he asked me the following question: Mom, if our heart beats all in our life, when can it play? I just stopped. I couldn't read the fairy tale because I realized that this question was pure philosophy out of a 3-year-old mouth. So that was the beginning of the story that I started collecting children wisdom. A 6-year-old little boy, when I asked him what is the greatest treasure in the world, he answered, it's easy, life itself. And at that time in my life, I was a heartbroken woman who was forced by life to make a decision about life. I try to find meaning and I try to find answers from children's wisdom. And I remembered a 10-year-old little boy asking, "Why do you fight with yourself? You can never win." And I tried to find happiness again because I thought that I will be never happy again. And I remember this little girl's sentence when she said, "Andrea, I'm always happy about myself." But I was in pieces, although I wanted to be in peace. I started researching and I found some adult wisdom. Dr. Gabor Mate's quote that part of us that is like a newborn, that is present and open and curious and full of wonder and full of faith really gave me hope. I wanted to find my peace and faith again. I remembered a quote of David Lynch. He said, "We think we understand the rules when we become adults, but what we really experience is the narrowing of the imagination." So I try to use my imagination, following Picasso's sentence that everything you can imagine is real. So I try to imagine happiness again, and I try to find meaning in art as well, because I ask myself, is death part of life or life is part of death? This picture, this painting of Raymond Douillet gave me hope. It just gave me it gave me answer that it was not only me who was finding answers to this really deep question. The way how kids see grief and death gave me also hope. A little boy asked me, "What happens to life if we die? Will the wind blow then?" And I was there, that part of my life, in my inner storm, and I tried to find peace, which felt impossible. My heart was breaking and my hands were shaking, but I did sign the paper. So as a family, we made our decision and we said no to my third son's life, but I didn't say no to his spirit. I went to the hospital because I had to give birth to his little body. And that's when I realized that I managed to connect to an inner wisdom, which was before unknown by me. I didn't know I have that, but it was also obvious for me how I have to do it. So I built an altar in the hospital room for him, for my son. And I set the circumstances, which was helpful for me. I was led by something. Like an inner power, that's what I felt. It felt that I managed to connect to this self energy, which was so powerful. I really felt that it's like an inner wisdom, ancient inner woman wisdom. And I also played music. I was playing music in the hospital room. I played a random track list of Roberto Cacciapaglia because I love this artist. So I set the whole hospital room. I was alone there and I managed to set these circumstances around me with the altar, with the candle, with the music. And that gave me kind of a safe bubble where I felt supported. The doctors did come to the room and they asked me, "Is everything okay?" sometimes, which was a very hard question that moment because I was feeling very, very alone. But somehow they did see that I was lighting a candle and I could see that they wanted to say something, but the way how I looked at them, finally they didn't say anything to me, so they let me be there the way how I needed. And I wasn't angry with them because I myself realized that as a medical doctor, I had no knowledge about grief at all. My doctor friends were very supportive in the operational level, but I would like to be very honest with you. I felt that only my artist friends were the ones who managed to hold the space for me and without question support me from the distance, even with this kind of safe network that they were just grounding me and helping me. The moment when I gave birth to my son, I was alone. I was holding him in my palm. I put a blanket around him and I said goodbye to him with dignity and with love. The music, which was, I could hear the music from that random track list and it was beautiful. And later I realized I searched for it and it was Martin Hayes' quartet, The Boy in the Gap. It was very powerful for me. This is the picture of my little son in my palm. And that was the moment when I understood that grief is love trapped in the body, nowhere to go. And I was lost because of my loss. I think I didn't really have enough knowledge how deep grief can be. So I tried to find meaning. I was reading a lot. And I came across the quote of Mark Twain, who says the two most important days of your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And through my own grief journey, I found light in the dark. The loss of my third son became a milestone in my life. And I delved into the science of grief, the spiritual aspects of grief, the neuroscience of grief, and I understand the importance of these quotes that grievers don't have to be fixed, they have to be heard, which is really similar what Aisling shared, that grief has to be witnessed. I also understood that grievers don't move on, they move forward with our grief, with the grief. So I found the light in the dark. I became a grief recovery specialist. And I joined the Compassionate Inquiry Professionals training. And that's also, again, the importance what Aisling shared, that grief is an embodied experience. The somatic approach is extremely important. So today I help others with passion, love, and discretion, which is extremely important, I think, with grief. And I do believe that without depth, there is no height. My favorite number is number 8. So I just would like to share with you how transformational grief can be. Because we do have conscious tools of transformation when we are grieving. And as for keening, I would like to share the wisdom of children, because I asked once a 5-year-old little boy, why do you cry? And he said, because it always works. And I do think the same with grief, that sometimes we just have to let it out. What Aisling shared with keening. Dr. Editeva Eger, the Holocaust survivor, she's also Hungarian rooted, she says the opposite of depression is expression. I think it's extremely important to understand the depth of this quote. Trauma writing, journaling, when we use our prefrontal cortex to share and to write out from ourselves how grief kind of embodies in our experiences. Some of my writings were published. The next transformational tool can be physical activity. I did start running, although my body was collapsing. I couldn't walk because of my deep back pain. I was crawling, but the way how I was using, for example, yoga, Kundalini yoga, was extremely helpful to reset the nervous system and co-regulate my nervous system. One of my artist friends organized an amazing event with 808 women. Altogether, we were approximately 1,000 women, and we were doing a transformational dance on the shape of number 8, and we had to hold a gate where the number 8 is crossing. And I was lucky to be one part of that gate as a grief recovery specialist, and the other woman was a doula. So it was so powerful that we were holding this gate where all the women were doing this transformational dance, which was extremely powerful. Singing, for example, which is again similar to keening. I sing in a choir and a woman choir, which is really, really helpful with grief. And I do believe in continuous learning. During the compassionate inquiry, I managed to have a one-to-one session with Dr. Gabor Mate, and I did write about the somatic result, what I experienced after that deep session. And then he came to Hungary, and there was a big presentation, and I had a chance to talk about grief as part of his big presentation. And I do collect since then the wisdom of grievers as well, not just the wisdom of children, because I do believe that grief gives us wisdom. So I have a plan of an exhibition about the word of children and the word of grievers, because they say beautiful things like grief is like life. It has everything inside. That was said by one of the grievers that I'm working with, and there are many others. So that's it. I do believe in transformation, that grief can be a treasure for us. Thank you so much. That was my presentation. I stop sharing.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for your sharing, your presentation. I could keep coming back to the wisdom of grief. It was coming,
Yes.
that word of the wisdom of grief. Very moving. Thank you. We've got about 11 minutes left of the webinar, so I would like to open to the audience if they would like to ask any question. I haven't checked the chat, so I don't know if I'm going to just check the chat to see if it's any question on the chat, and give the audience the opportunity if you want to raise your hands if you have a question, or to put it on the chat for this last 10 minutes if it's any questions. We will attend there for Andrea or myself. I give that. Someone is, I can't see your name. I can see you. Yeah. Paul, would you mind to, we've got Paul there.
It's
Yeah.
Carol. Carol, you just have to unmute yourself.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol.
Very interested. I've been everybody deals with grief for about 18 years now. And I was very interested if Andrea thought about visualization and what she would say about, because some people can't run, they can't do anything, they're disabled and they're stuck in a room. And I wondered if you could give me some tips on that.
How to work
Whether
on
you
your
thought,
grief.
yes.
Yeah, I think, to find somebody that you can share your deep feelings is extremely important. It can be even a group settings. Group work can be very, very powerful when we handle our grief, because the support of groups are really, really helpful. The way how we share our grief, even through verbalizing it or through any other somatic approaches, they're both very, very powerful. I think finding the right person is crucial, where you have the safety and
I'm actually a grief counselor, so
okay.
I was thinking specifically of clients or patients, whatever you want to call them, and how they can do it on their own, because obviously you can't be there the whole time.
Yes, of course. Well, I think it's, grief is, we both know that it's individual.
Yeah.
So it's like our DNA. So we have to know the griever and their life circumstances. And we do have to find the individualized helping tools for them. Obviously, physical activity is not possible for somebody, then other tools can be really, really powerful. For example, what I shared, the journaling, or, the way how I work with grievers, I always ask them that if they have, if they are open to share their writings when they journal, I always read them and I reflect back, because I think, when they cannot verbalize it the moment when the waves of grief hits them, then for example, I usually suggest them to use the tool of journaling, and I do ask them to send it to me. So when I have capacity, then I react on their beautiful sharings. And that can be a very powerful base and kind of connection, because even if I'm not there 24/7, obviously I cannot be, that they have, but they have the knowledge that what they are writing down, they are journaling, can be shared with me. And that is really powerful, because it means that the grief can be witnessed.
Thank you. Thank you.
And actually, that's how I started collecting the wisdom of grievers, because it's just, I realized that this is so, I do believe that grief opens a door in everybody's soul. If somebody is familiar with the work of Dr. Irvin Yalom, he is an existential psychiatrist. His work is, oh my God, it's a must for everybody who deals with grief.
And could you put that up on your website, the name, because I didn't catch it.
Yes, I will.
Is it Irvin Yalom, yeah?
Yes, Irvin Yalom.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm writing in the
chat. Yalom. I think his work is a must for all of us who deal with grief.
Thank you.
And that's how he also emphasized that grievers connect to this really deep wisdom, because grief does open a door in our soul. That's the same for me. It's really similar to children, because children come to this world with this untouched wisdom. And when we face with death and grief, that also opens a door. For example, one griever shared that what does grief feels like? It hurts so much that I want to die, but I don't have suicidal thoughts. And I remember when she said that, it was so powerful for me because it just led me to this journey that I started collecting these beautiful quotes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Carol. I don't know if it's, I know that it's, I can't see very much the chat. I don't think there are questions. It's just thank you messages. Like it was a beautiful presentation. Thank you. Really from the heart. Journaling, so people agreeing that journaling is very powerful and helped me, it says, with a recent personal bereavement. And there's beautiful presentation. So I don't know if anyone else, we've got just 3 minutes, so if anyone else has a question before we close, just given the opportunity before we close. If not, we're just gonna have these minutes, Andrea, just to say goodbye.
Maybe can I share just one more quote of from a griever, because it was so beautiful. It goes that I have to be courageous to be vulnerable. Grief made me understand that being vulnerable means being brave. And I think it's so powerful because the word vulnerable can be kind of reframed to be brave and open, and that's really powerful. I think everything that grievers share, it is a wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing your wisdom today.
Well, it's not mine. It's not mine. It's all the grievers. No, really, it's their wisdom. I am just lucky to channel it, and we can learn from grievers so much. So I'm just a channel.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Aisling, as well, for sharing her experience with Kinney and the importance of rituals. Today was about rituals helping with healing and saying goodbye, and you share a few of them in your presentation. Very, very powerful. So just saying thank you again, you both, for being here today, for supporting this webinar series this week at St. Elizabeth Hospice. Thank you everyone that came today and asked questions and make some comments and being part of this important. We were saying yesterday how important it is to talk about it, to share the grief, to bring this conversation to normality. And so thank you everyone for being here, for supporting this idea, and thank you everyone for your support. So I think we're gonna finish here, unless you want to say something before we finish, Andrea.
Maybe, as you know, the title was The Rituals of How to Say Goodbye. I just would like to emphasize that the fact that without any kind of deep background, I built that altar in the hospital room led me to the importance of rituals, because I think we don't have enough in the Western world. We don't use it enough. And later, my research proved me that, for example, the shamanic way of building altars is really, really powerful. So I do think that kind of getting back these rituals in our everyday life is extremely powerful, and I hope that it will happen more and more. But Aisling is also, she was also sharing with us keening, building altars, being in community, sharing our deep feelings, sharing our grief, and having it witnessed is a key in healing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I see you. We continue tomorrow with another one. We will have our spiritual team tomorrow to talk about another aspect of the rituals on healing and in grief. So we will see if anyone wants to come back tomorrow. We will see you tomorrow at the same time, 12:30 UK time. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.